Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death, and mourning, and famine. And she shall be utterly burned with fire, for strong is the Lord God who judgeth her.
Past, present and future timelines and one new dream vision. I want to make this video and discuss a few points about earlier message dreams. This is going to be a very long video, but there are things in this video which I hope you find interesting. There is a lot to cover in this video, some things which I have connected that not too many people have put together. I want to first discuss a dream vision I had 2 nights back on the 13th or 12th of March 2021. I told you I had the dream vision of apartheid coming to Europe and that I saw Europeans would need passes to get on transportation back in 2019, but that they would not call it apartheid. I had another dream vision about the same event, and this time I saw the laws will go so far that there will be restrictions to how many people will be able to travel in the same car. I see a police officer stop a car, the driver handed him a green book, it flips open like a real passport. The policeman looks at it, while looking at it, he inspects the back of the car. I see the driver is alone in the vehicle, but the policeman looks in the back of the car despite it being empty. I think they are worried about weapons being transported or something. I have no idea why there would be a limit to the amount of passengers in a car. The area around the car was misty, it seems it's a grey country, very misty. I think this is Northern Ireland. I have a feeling it is Britain just due to the atmosphere around the vehicle. So do not be surprised if you see that there will be restrictions to how many people can travel in a vehicle based when these passes are issued. The message dream under the cover of darkness is not over, and nor is the electric feeling in the air. The under cover of darkness dream shown to me in late 2019 told me there would be army troops transported under the cover of darkness to the country and in the country. We saw the army come out with the lockdowns, but where have they gone? What has happened to them? That period is still upon us. I do not know if this dream vision fits into the seer's vision of when things would be so dark that he could not see his hand before his eyes. It could be because he explained that at that time things would be so chaotic in the country that we would not know what's going on. This is what I believe the under cover of darkness dream was telling us. The electric feeling in the air dream was to tell you that when you get the electric feeling in the air, pay attention. That is a sure sign of civil war around the corner. None of these dreams are an overnight event, and even the ones that take place fast do not mean the event is over. Like Turkey in Libya, yes, the Turk entered Libya, but do you think he is simply going to go back? No, he is sitting tight in preparation of moving down Africa. It will not happen overnight. It was by the grace of God, I truly believe it, that the electric feeling in the air occurred and was shared with you with the court fiasco. That was warning the nation, be careful, take note of the electric feeling in the air. The electric feeling is what is generating these war clouds. The electric feeling is nothing more than the various groups, tribes, politics, race, issues of the people on the ground. This is their thoughts, you pick up the tension, the air becomes electric. The electric feeling has not died down. After the court case you had Brackenfell High School, each time more and more things are created, the tension. The electric feeling in the air combined with the folk with their backs against the wall adds to this. From that electric feeling, that pent-up frustration, anger in the masses leads to action. The actions taken combined with the electric feeling generate the war clouds. The war clouds are simply an extension of the electric feeling in the air, and that one who damn is empty needs this revolution to come to pass, to come back to power as I saw in the dream and mentioned by the seer. This is where this is heading. The war clouds will result in the storm, and then the aftermath of this is the Thorn Bush government. Things, as the seer said, will not have changed, but gotten worse. The same lot who begged for the new South Africa, then cried about it, will be rejoicing, but for those of you who know, it's just a little stop at the petrol station. The country at the end of the day will still be heading in the same direction. Nothing will have changed. Why? Of course, because he who was on top is now below, and he who is on top was below. The ground is plowed under. The communist revolution still has not kicked off. All these events are taking place, with events taking place around the world. We are not some isolated event happening in this world. These events bring about the war clouds on the horizon for the rest of the world. It is a judgment brought about nations and men's own greed which will ultimately destroy them. The Boer Wars is really what started this, and I will explain it as best as I can. The Almighty God of Israel put our people, our ancestors, on this portion of the earth. It was ours. We have the historical records of who was here and who was not here. All confirmed by the Portuguese, Dutch and missionaries. Then with the discovery of gold, the gold bug, the greed crept in which led to the Boer War. It is from my study and observation of world history that the Boer War, the Second Boer War, has led us to World War I, World War II and the Third World War. Through Germany supporting the Boers, sending arms, and through Russia's support, this challenged the Anglo-American partnership. We see shortly after the Boer War the Russian Bolshevik Revolution and then World War I against Germany. The reason the Boer War lasted as long as it did was the Boers fought with the most sophisticated weapons in Europe, and this posed a threat to the alliance. Russia and Germany had to be cleaned out and controlled. After World War I, we have Jan Smuts form the League of Nations and the Treaty of Versailles, which the British pushed through. Jan Smuts and General Botha both said this would lead to another war because the parallels placed on Germany were not too different to what was forced on the Boers, leading to the Anglo-Boer War. He was correct. World War II took place. The result of this war, again fought for ill-gotten gains to stop Germany from taking her rightful place as God had designed, is going to lead to World War III. All these things are now coming to a culmination. The century of bondage came undone in March 2020, when the Boer folk, the whites in South Africa, were put in bondage chains due to the creation of the Reserve Bank in South Africa, which came about due to the Boer War, which led to the First World War, which led us to the Treaty of Versailles, all taking us to the year 1919 and 1920, which is the century of bondage in South Africa. The events from there unfolding in the world since the Boer War have led to these wars, led to the mess we see taking place in the world today. Of course, I am looking at a lens in time here. We could go further back in history and tie in more things, but I am simply going to cover here what the seer said and tie in some dream visions. The result of those wars was a monetary crisis and the introduction of fiat currency. Money printed without being backed by gold. The wars had bankrupted nations. This led to an increase in inflation and money being printed out of thin air, and saw America print that money like toilet paper, used to finance its military-industrial complex. All this had led to the nations around the world arming up and building up their military. The lockdowns have simply slowed down the inevitable, and that is total economic collapse, which is still coming. It has not yet happened. And again, we can trace these events to the timeline of the Boer War. After the Boer War we have the Russian Revolution, which leads to communism. Which is why today we find ourselves in this situation in South Africa. Through the Boer War, the Russian Revolution was unleashed, and that unleashing of the beast led to Hitler arming up, and this resulted in the West now wanting to take care of Germany. A threat to their empire, which was clearly visible through their arming of the Boers during the Boer War. Why have I taken you this far and gone over a little history? Because to see the bigger picture, you have to look back in time to how we got here and what has been told would happen here in South Africa in the world. Now, with all this printing of money out of thin air, economies are going to be in depressions. Welcome to the coming world jostling to see who will be the next superpower. This is going to be the scramble of nations to African rich countries, not in brainpower but in minerals which they never knew existed until we showed them they existed, and even then, they still need our technology to get things out the ground. Now let me tie in what I really want to point out with what the seer said would happen. I took you back to the past for a reason, and now it's time to start looking toward the future. Now, with the economy being hit the hardest, the UK pulling out of Europe, the seer's visions of plagues coming upon the land begin to pick up fast. 1. The dire straits of the country forms part of his vision of the UK leaving the EU with the shops being empty. I believe this is one of the same visions seen at a different angle or time. It is the same series of visions he had that tie into the laws being removed from the land in which the dream vision I had that the laws would be removed which would give way and push these plagues into the forefront. I had a dream vision a few years back of a Brexit betrayal. The people want out the EU due to migration, but I saw that migration will increase and not decrease. This is mentioned in a number of previous videos. This is the betrayal I saw. Now it is interesting to see that the seer said shops would be empty, UK leaves the European Union. Shops became empty due to laws being removed in the land. This results in the financial crisis they find themselves in. We see they say this is the worst economic period in 300 years. So we know the plague of dire straits takes place now. Why did it happen? They removed their Christian laws to be able to pull out of the European Union. Why did they pull out of the European Union? On the basis of migration, but if you read what the seer said happens after this takes place of them pulling out of the EU, we see once again that the migration to Europe from Africa increases and not decreases. This is part of the betrayal dream I had of the UK. Why would Africans be heading to the EU and England? Well, you have the first communist states of Africa where communism took hold now fighting in the Central African Republic. This is going to pick up now. We are going to see Russia getting more involved. The dream vision in March 2021 I had showed me that Russia is going to get more involved and the war more intense. Remember those countries the West have been trying to control and get them on the Western Democratic Front and moving them away from Russia and China. This is where communism took root the earliest in Africa, and we see Russia now heading into this region with more intensity. I explained in the dream vision of America losing this war. America, you will lose that war, it is God's will. I will explain this in a moment. When America gets involved in this war, they will and have already said the situation there is due to extremists. We know Russia defeats extremists, and I will not let the cat out the bag of who those extremists are, but safe is to say, where ISIS goes, America shows. It is not too long after ISIS or other terrorist groups show up that we have seen in the past American intervention. You have to look no further than Syria, Libya, Iraq and Afghanistan. I said there is going to be a scramble for southern Africa by the Turks. The revival of the Ottoman Empire is upon us. This is why Portugal is active. This is history repeating. There is nothing new under the sun. Portugal is one of Europe's earliest empires to fight the Ottomans, and there is no way the Portuguese are going to let the Turks take their former territories that they legally and rightfully have a claim on. This is the same stance Turkey has with its former colonies or caliphates such as Syria, Libya, Somalia, Lebanon, and it is for this very reason that those once former caliphates do not want Turkey back in their waters. So we see the US have labeled all those groups now terrorists in Mozambique and Central African Republic. With the global downturn due to the virus, it is a scramble for commodities. That is the real money, with hyperinflation coming around the corner. Those commodities will need to be reserved, and whoever gets them first will rule the coming century. Britain is already ahead of the pack with the digital currency formation, but she has bigger problems to deal with, which we will get back to. So the US is more than likely going to get involved in these countries, the Central African Republic and Mozambique, in some way, shape or form. However, they will lose that battle and Russia will more than likely take it. When I had the dream vision of the American troops despondent in the CAR, I did not see them fighting, I simply saw them lose the war. So are they fighting Islamist, or are they fighting the Turks, the Islamic invaders?